Hi everyone and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I'm Marcus and today I will give you a very quick overview about Gardens here. One of the newest games by Kosmos. I think they presented this at the Nuremberg Toy Fair very recently. So it's brand new, not sure how soon this will get over the ocean and outside of Germany, but I will give you a short review anyway. Really, this game comes with a lot of cardboard tiles, especially here you see the garden tiles, there are really a lot of them. Then you have the flower bed tiles in the player colors, some special garden tiles also for the player colors, then the starting tile, the tile for the starting player, and you also get some wooden figures here as well. And it has to be said, at least they're not meeples, they look a little bit like, I think it's a bishop from a chessboard. Instead of explaining you the rules, I really decided to show you 2 or 3 turns of this game. As the rules are really not that complicated, they're easy to learn. I only want to show you the core mechanics and how you can really make some tactical decisions in this game, even though the rules are not that complicated. There are really plenty of opportunities to torture your fellow players in this game to make his life as tough as possible, and in order to place these flower beds on the game board here. So let's get started. I show you the 4-player version of this game. The rules are not completely different with a 2 or 3 player game, but there are some differences and I want to really concentrate here on the core part of this game. So this would be the setup for 4-player games. So everyone gets 8 of these flower beds here, a second miniature, and this special action tile, or however you would call that. In a 2-player game, or in a team game, these tiles would not be used, for example. The setup is really pretty quick. For once you take this big garden tile here, you place the players on this player board on the appropriate spot, so there's a color for each of the players. You shuffle the garden tiles and make them available face down to all the players. You assign a starting player and then you're ready to go. Easy as that. What can you do in an actual game turn? The first thing that you always have to do is you take a garden tile. And with this tile you have 3 options. For once, you can place it next to an existing garden tile. In this case, there is only the starting tile available, so red goes for this tile here. And now he has to move his figure to this newly laid tile. Of course, there are some rules how to lay these tiles. Path have to go to path, water have to go to water, but that's basically it. So in this case, red would have to move his first figure on this space here. There's also the option to place a tile somewhere else, and then you would be allowed to place your second pawn on this newly built tile. You normally do that when you cannot reach any meaningful position with your player that's still on the board. Pawns block the movement of other pawns. So if red would have placed this tile here, he would not be allowed to move into this direction because the pink player here would block the movement to this field. In this case, red could decide to place his second pawn onto this tile, but as I explained before, we are not going in that direction right now, so this will be the very first turn for red. Theoretically, there is now a third phase, so any player could move his second pawn on the board. Right now that's not the case, so we will skip this phase, and we will also skip the 4th phase where we would score the actual flower beds. Right now we have not completed any flower beds yet. Here there's only 1 piece missing, but for now we are not allowed to score this flower bed. Okay, let's give the turn to the yellow player. Yellow draws this tile here. This tile could be pretty awesome because he could complete this flower bed here. Unfortunately, this is not allowed because water cannot lead into a pathway, so he has to lay it somewhere else, and I think he will play it that way. For once, he prepared the flower bed here, so this flower bed currently consists of 3 parts, so this is nearly finished, but 2 of the 3 parts are already showing the yellow color. Of course, he also produced a pink spot here already, but of course you cannot deal with anything. So for now he will be fine. The next thing is he has to move his current pawn on this position. Now he could move his second pawn, we would score any flower beds, but again we don't have any flower beds finished. Okay. Blue player's turn. He draws this garden tile here, and this is really a problem for him. So I think he will now go with option B. So he will lay the tile on this space here, and as he cannot reach this tile here, he can place his second pawn on this newly built space at this point in time. For now that's not really great, but you already see what I'm trying to prepare here. So we have a flower bed that's also nearly finished, and it's showing 2 blue colors here. Again, we haven't finished anything. He could now move his blue pawn basically, so the second one here, but I think for now he's fine. He will stay where he is. That's the tile for the pink player, and I think pink will place this tile here, and he will move his pink character onto this tile. It's allowed, the way is basically free, and we finished our first flower bed here. That's definitely a tie, so no player gains any or can place his flower bed on this tile here, but he's starting to finalizing this flower bed here where he has the current majority. Then we come to red again. This would be the tile for red. And I think for red it's pretty simple. He will place the tile here, he will move his pawn there, and he's also starting to finalizing this flower bed. Again, we come to yellow. Yellow draws this tile, and this is the perfect match for him or for her. He will place this tile here, so he has to move his pawn on this newly built tile. He has no second pawn on the game board, which he could move or she could move. But you see, we have a finished flower bed here, and this flower bed shows 3 times the yellow player, so he has total majority in this case, so yellow would be allowed to place his first flower bed tile. And guess what? This is one of the 2 conditions how the game actually ends. As soon as a player places his last flower bed on the game board, we will still finish the current game round, so every player has the same amount of turns in this game. The game will actually end. The second condition on how to end this game is that we run out of these garden tiles. In a 4-player game, that's normally 4 or less tiles available at the start of a game round, and then also the game would end after this round and we would come to the final scoring. Okay, blue has just drawn this tile. Fortunately, he cannot continue or finish this flower bed here, but I think he will place this tile here. He will move his pawn over there. Theoretically, he could move his second pawn now, but of course the second pawn is not connected to any path at this point in time, and he's not allowed to swim, so he has to stay where he is. Then we come to pink again. Pink has just drawn this tile, and he's absolutely lucky with this tile, so he will place it like this. He will move his figure on this tile. He finished a flower bed, he has the majority in his flower bed, so he would be allowed to place his flower bed. Perfect. That's the tile for red. So we start our 3rd round already. It's really a pretty quick game, and this tile is perfect for him because he can place it here. That's allowed because we are still putting water to water. He cannot move his pawn there, but that's the reason why you have a second pawn, so you can place his second pawn on this field. Then he could move the other pawn here, but I think he will keep him where he is. He finished the flower bed, he has the majority, so he's also allowed to play his flower bed on that finished flower bed here. Then we come back to yellow. Yellow has just drawn this tile here, and I'm really thinking of placing this tile here. Again, he cannot reach his tile with his existing pawn, so he will place his second pawn onto this path. So he's really starting to gain the majority of this flower bed here already. Let's see what blue can do. Okay, this is the tile for blue, and this is also perfectly okay for him, as he can also finish a flower bed here, so he will move his pawn on this tile, and then he finished this flower bed, so he can claim it for him. And that's the pink tile, and I think pink will use this tile to complete this space over here. There is no majority, so for pink that's perfect. He can now decide whether to move his existing pawn or place a new pawn. I think in this case he will really place his new pawn there. This is finished, so there will be no scoring done because there's definitely a tie. So we would directly move back to red, but I think I will end it here. Of course, the player who plays most of his tiles on the game board actually wins this game. In case of a tie, you would score all the corners that you have used in order to gain the majority, and the player with least of these corners actually wins the tie. If there is still a tie, then both players would actually win. And this is basically how you play gardens. There are of course some additional rules when you, for example, if you draw a tile and you desperately don't want to place it or you cannot place it, then you can discard it. If you have then two of your pawns on the player board, you have to remove one of these pawns, which can be an advantage of course, because sometimes you really can be locked down. So for example, in a case like this where blue would have one of his pawns here, then he would be blocked in both directions. In this case, you really have to remove one of your pawns back to your player area in order to place it in a later round, for example. Some final words about gardens. This is really a clever little game. So when I first read through the rules and checked the components, I really said, so what's this all about? But when you really play this game and really see how you have to think about your movement, where to place your pawns and how to lock down other players, this is really provides you some level of depth to this game. I really enjoy this game. It's a light game. You explain it really within 5 minutes to anyone. Of course, experience is definitely key in this game. So when you play this game twice or 3 times, maybe you definitely know how to not lock down your pawns and such. But really, it's a fun game and easy to learn. I hope you enjoyed my little overview here. Hope to see you soon in one of my next videos. And until then, bye bye.